I, Ishwari, welcome Mr. Kiran Shilli from Dheya Career Mentors. He has 18 years of experience in the design and engineering field of oil and gas, petrochemicals, chemical and fertilizer industry under mechanical discipline. So now I request you, sir, to take over.
Thank you for the nice introduction, Ishwari.
Thank you,
Uh,
sir.
Welcome to all participants, basically. My name is Mr. Kiran Siddappa Shilli. I have done my Bachelor of Engineering Mechanical Discipline from the Pune University, and I have total experience of around 18 years. Works for various fields like oil and gas, petrochemicals, chemicals, fertilizers, and various others. Okay. Ignore the please the graphics part of this. Act like a lady, think like a petroleum engineer. Today we are learning the petroleum engineering. That is the reason I put this graphics. Disclaimer: this webinar will provide you just an overall idea of the subject topic. This being a specialized field. Reason this being a specialized field because this is a new topic to almost to everyone, and even actually, frankly speaking, I am also not fully associated with that field. Today, the topic of webinar is petroleum engineering. And the agenda points what we are going to cover here is basically what is petroleum engineering, what are the basic qualifications required, path for petroleum engineer, then important qualities required to have for the petroleum engineers, academic topics, various possibilities of career options, industries which require petroleum engineers, then salaries offered, earning potential which can be helpful for the petroleum engineers, whether the job chances are available in India or abroad. This we are going to learn it here. PSU sector opportunities. Probably uh, the list of join is here. Probably are some students, some are maybe professionals, or some are into early jobs. Those who don't know about PSU, PSU means public sector units. And the next agenda point will be PhD opportunities and other specialization. Before going to the next slide, I want to understand from you what is meant by petroleum engineering from your point of view. Can you write on the chat box, please? Okay. So we'll start the main topic. What is meant by petroleum engineering? So petroleum engineering is a field of engineering concerned with the activities related to the production of hydrocarbons, which can be either crude oil or natural gas. Petroleum engineering also focuses on how to process that allow the development and exploitation of crude oil and natural gas fields, as well as technical analysis, computer modeling, and forecasting of their future production. Petroleum engineering field is mainly evolved from the mining and geology field in early 19th century. See, before 19th century, this field was even unknown to various institutes. Actual petroleum engineering started, this profession got starts in 1914 within the American Institute of Mining, Metallurgical and Petroleum Engineers. As covered in previous point, as I told earlier, petroleum engineering is evaluated from the field mining and geology. Petroleum engineering field covers all aspects related to crude oil and gas like extraction, processing, refinement, types of byproducts, methods involved, devices and equipments. So it will teach everything to you. How you are going to extract oil, what are the processing methods, which methods you are going to use, what refinement will be used, then what will be the type of byproducts, what are the methods being used Especially what are the devices and equipments. Especially for the devices and equipments, if you see any plant, basically mostly 60% of the plant will cover devices and equipment, and rest of the plant will have only piping, electrical instrumentation, and all other parts basically. So this is what petroleum engineering is. Now, I am a petroleum engineer. To save time, let's just assume I am never wrong. So this is the what attitude being possessed by the petroleum engineer. Generally, they are always correct. They are never wrong. These are the additional graphics I put just for your understanding. Okay. So until now, we have studied what is meant by petroleum engineering. So the what part of petroleum engineering we have studied as of now. But why petroleum engineering? You should also know why you want to learn petroleum engineering. These are the four whys why you should learn petroleum engineering. And these are like some of the things by default factors for some of the engineers also. You should always keep on asking why. So the first why is you are fascinated with earth sciences. As we covered earlier, petroleum engineering is evaluated from basically mining and geosciences. That means you want to know, learn about our earth. What is meant by earth? What is meant by earth science? So you're really fascinated about that factor. So you want to learn that. So that is first why. The second why is you want to explore the world. See, petrol, diesel, all these products basically is a required need of entire world. This is not the only need for India or only need for USA or only need of other countries. This need is for entire world. That means you want to explore the world because once you studied the petroleum engineer, you need you have a chance to explore the world. You need to go to Saudi Arabia, you need to go to Australia, you need to go to USA. So you need to explore the world. So that why is only available with you. That is the reason you want to study the petroleum engineering. The next why is you are innovative and want to protect the earth. Means you want to save the earth from environmental point of view, for from various aspects. So environmental engineering is also somehow associated with this field. The last why is you are really want to enjoy the managing projects. So whatever assignments given to you under various category, so you want to enjoy that project, you want to leave that project. So that why should be available with you. So these all four whys should be available with you to succeed in petroleum engineering as a career. That doesn't mean that if any of the why is not available, you cannot exceed. But minimum four whys should be available overall. There are so other whys also available, but for this webinar, I have covered only these four whys. Now, the next topic is basic qualification. So similar to other engineering field, likewise everybody knows probably mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, production engineering, electrical engineering, instrumentation engineering, where everywhere the basic qualification requires PCM, physics, chemistry, maths, which is a very important to have for this petroleum engineering. If you don't study physics, chemistry, maths, and still if you want to do petroleum engineering, no, it is not possible. You should have a sound knowledge of physics, chemistry, and maths. So that is first and foremost requirement of this field. The second requirement is minimum you should be 12th standard qualification. It is a must. It is a must requirement. If somebody says no, I have the 10th degree, can I enroll in the petroleum engineering course? No, it is not possible. The next point cover that one only. After 10 standard, no petroleum engineering courses are offered as there are no diploma level courses available for this. So only degree level courses are available for petroleum engineering. But this is not the end of the story. Suppose in the future, if you like this field, petroleum engineering, and you want to pursue the career, and after 12th, you didn't get the admission into relevant institutes in your suitable colleges where these courses are being studied, no need to worry. Chances are there. Even though you did not get admission for petroleum engineering after 12th standard, in that case, you may still enroll for other engineering disciplines like mechanical or chemical or other suitable engineering courses. Once you complete your Bachelor of Engineering for from that discipline, you can still enroll your names for studying the petroleum engineering. In that case, it will be master courses. But only to have PCM, physics, chemistry, maths, and only to have minimum 12 standard qualification is not a must. Some institutes will also take you entrance test. Apart from entrance test, there are some requirements of some of the universities and institutes to have the gate score compliance. That means you need to also pass that entrance test as well as you need to also comply the requirement of gate score. Then only you will be eligible to enroll your name in petroleum engineering courses. So these are the minimum basic qualification required to enroll in petroleum engineering courses. If at all you are interested. Okay. So the next point I am going to cover is already covered, but I have presented this in a different slide. So you can enroll your name for the 12th for the petroleum engineering course even after 12th. Even after 12th, if you are not getting petroleum engineering course, you can still enroll your name for any of the course in undergraduate BTech level for mechanical or other disciplines, and after that you can do for PG MTech for petroleum engineering. Even some of the institutes are directly offering you to have a 5-year course which combines BTech plus MTech for petroleum engineering even after 12th. But these fields are very restricted. These institutes are very restricted, very rare, and entrance test for those will be very strict. Now the next important point which we are going to cover, as of now we studied what is petroleum engineering and why petroleum engineering. So what and why we have studied. Now what are the skills required? So once you enroll for any of the course, what are the key skills you should possess is very important. These are the few skills which are recorded, which is mean analytical skills, then complex problem solving skills. You should have strong science and computing knowledge background, and another thing is teamwork skills. Means once you enroll in this course, almost many times you need to analyze many more data. So your analytical skills should be very strong. Suppose if there is any problem, any complex problem, you should have an answer to solve this. You should have strong science background, always a computing knowledge background, and teamwork skills. Petroleum engineers must be able to compile and make sense of large amounts of technical information and data in order to ensure that facilities operate safely and effectively. That is the reason analytical skills are required. Creativity is also one of the skill is very much required because each new drill site is unique and therefore presents a new challenges, and petroleum engineers must be able to come up with creative designs to extract oil and gas. Then interpersonal skills. Petroleum engineers must work with others on projects that require highly complex machinery, equipment, and infrastructure. Communicating and working well with other engineers and oil and gas workers is crucial to ensuring that projects meet customer needs and run safely and efficiently. This is nothing but teamwork. Then math skills. Petroleum engineers must use the principle of calculus and other advanced topics in maths for analysis, design, and troubleshooting in their work. Problem solving skills. Identifying problems in drilling plants is critical for petroleum engineers because these problems can be costly. Petroleum engineers must be careful not to overlook any potential issues and must quickly address those which do occur. Now, everybody want to know basically once you enroll for the petroleum engineering course, which are the subjects you will be being studied. Believe me, the list which you are referring right now is not the final list. This is hardly around 20 to 25% list only. There are few, so many subjects you are going to study. Let us have the name of the subjects which you are going to study under the petroleum engineering course. Drilling technology. Drilling technology is one of the subject you are going to study. Reservoir fluid thermodynamics, petroleum economics, petroleum geoscience, petroleum geotechnical, petroleum management, oil and gas business, natural gas business, petrochemical business, petroleum refining, petroleum exploration, petroleum business law, policy and strategy, petro retailing business. Obviously, case studies is a part of every engineering course. So, without case studies, you cannot learn anything. These case studies will be practical examples from the site also sometimes. And the most important is health, safety, and environmental factors related to petroleum industry, elements of reservoir engineering, geologies for petroleum engineering, numerical and statistical methods, transportation and marketing of petroleum and petroleum products, oil and gas well testing, deep sea production system, enhanced oil recovery techniques, offshore drilling and petroleum production practices. As I told earlier, these the list is not so exclusive. The list I covered is hardly 20 to 25% of the entire subject. You are going to study so many other subjects related to petroleum engineering. Every engineering is also associated with management subjects which I have not covered here. All the topics which I covered here only meant for petroleum engineering and only restricted. Now, everybody want to know the main topic of the today. Okay, I want to study the petroleum engineering, but what are the chances? There is always a question saying that will there be any jobs for petroleum engineers in the coming years? And all answer is always yes. Answer is always yes. So now we will study what are the chances of career. Okay. So petroleum engineering has a good scope in the country as India is very much rich in minerals and natural gases. Actually, in olden days, frankly speaking, there are very few chances, and chances were limited to the countries where the minerals and natural gases are available. But if that country don't know how to encash those talents, it is very difficult for those countries. But India is being rich in minerals and natural gases, and India know how to encash the talent. There are now big companies available in the India also. Petroleum engineering can also work in onshore as well as onshore engineering. So, uh, for the webinar topic, let us understand this onshore and offshore engineering means what. Onshore engineering means the oil and gas fields available on the available on the fields, and offshore engineering is nothing but available on the sea. Now, petroleum engineering can also work in refinery companies, either India or abroad. In India, there are various refinery companies. Petroleum engineering can also work for R&D labs associated with the petroleum engineering. Petroleum engineer can also work as a faculty in various colleges and institutes. As I told earlier, this is a very specialized field. So even you may get a chance to work as a faculty. Petroleum engineer can also work as a tendering officer for various private and government sectors. There are so many tenders being opened in the market, either from the government agencies, either from the private agencies, India or abroad. So you can be a part of tendering officer. Petroleum engineer can work as a drilling engineer. He can also work as a production engineer. He can work as a reservoir engineer. Petroleum engineer can work in oil and gas fields as a supervisor. Petroleum engineer can work as a commissioning engineer, or you can say completion engineer. Petroleum engineer can also work as inspection and testing engineer. There are so many oil tests which need to be tested, for which inspection and testing engineer is very much required and nowadays very demanded. Now, there are some other career options also available. Petroleum engineer can work as a technical advisor or consultant. He can work as a safety compliance coordinator. He can also work as a facility engineer. He can also work as a petroleum analyst. This analyst word comes because if you possess that skill, definitely you will become a petroleum analyst. Under the skills, we already studied that you should have a analytical background. Then petroleum engineer can also work as a petroleum maintenance mechanic. He can be a QA and QC person. He can be strategy specialist. Some of the things, petroleum being a specialized field, uh, you always required to have a proper strategy to develop what are the future growth plans for the country, for the private sector companies. How, in a systematic phased manner, you want to explore the oils in a phase manner, phase one, phase two, phase three, something like that. So you should be specialist in that one. He can work as an operation manager. He can work as a completion engineer. Petroleum administrator is also one of the career option for those. Then petroleum surveyor. Okay. So now these are the some videos links.
Creativity is a quality more often associated with artists than engineers,
Is
but
it audible?
petroleum engineers need it to develop new ways to extract oil and
Yes, sir.
gas from
It
below
is
the
loading
Earth's
up.
surface and make old oil wells more productive. Oil and gas deposits reside deep in rock formations, accessible only by drilling wells on land or at sea. Petroleum engineers work with other scientists to map geological formations and determine drilling methods, design equipment, run the drilling plan, and monitor operations. These engineers analyze data to anticipate flaws or complications in a drilling plan before a project begins. They work hard to consider all potential issues and to quickly address problems that do occur. Most petroleum engineers work in the oil industry, though some work in related manufacturing or manage companies in the oil industry. They generally work in offices or research laboratories, as well as at drilling sites to monitor operations, often for extended periods. Petroleum engineers work around the world and must work effectively with people from a wide variety of backgrounds. Full-time hours are typical, and overtime is common. Hours are longer at drill sites. Employers prefer candidates with a bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering, although some accept a degree in mechanical or chemical engineering as well.
Hello, my name is Sebastian Jaya, co-founder of Oilfield Basics, and this is Derek Gray, also co-founder. We're here today to discuss with you the different types of petroleum engineers and the career of petroleum engineering in general. And so there's four main subtypes.
Yes, sir, it is audible, is clear also.
The first is reservoir, the second is drilling, third is production, and the fourth is completions. These are all engineering titles, and we'll go more in depth with each. So Derek, do you want to take the reservoir engineers?
Yeah, so basically reservoir, they're basically given a basin to look at. They're going to be doing some characteristics, analyzing the characteristics of the reservoir, trying to figure out what kind of permeability, porosity. They're responsible for overseeing a bunch of testing of the reservoir to basically figure out its limits, how much of oil and gas is down there, what the typical productions we expect to see, and they're also going to be responsible for determining the decline of the well. So trying to help more so with the financial forecasting of what types of return on investments that a company would see if they were to exploit that particular formation or that particular area. So they're more so, there'll be a lot in the office, working with computer simulations and models. They'll maybe get out every now and then to take a few tests on the wells, try and get information as much as they can. So basically the gatherers and sorters of the information and basically trying to characterize the reservoir and what the company should do going forward.
Yeah. And so secondly, with drilling engineers are the ones overseeing the entire drilling operation. And so they're the ones responsible for drilling the well, making sure it's done on time, it's done safely, and within the AFE, which is the Authority for Expenditure. And so it's basically the budget for the well. And so drilling engineers, like I said, have to make sure that the well is done safely, and they plan the wells ahead of time in software. And they also design the casing plans to make sure that everything, when drilled and cased, will be planned and executed as planned. And so that's the main thing that drilling engineers do. Drilling engineers will spend most of the time in the field, but also in the office. Depends on your company. Some companies may send a drilling engineer on location for 2 weeks and then give them a 2-week break. It really depends on the company, but like I said, they'll be out in the field a lot more than reservoir engineers.
And some companies have what we call company men. That'll be a whole other video on its own, but essentially some companies hire people to actually be the responsible party for that company on location to oversee the drilling operation. So a lot of times, and this depends on the company, as Sebastian said, a lot of times the drilling engineer is more so the one who's planning the well and determining the details, and then he hands that over to the contractors to then execute it.
Do you want to take completion engineers?
Yeah, so completions, basically, so once the well is drilled, it's then up to the completions team and completions engineer to basically come up with the planning and everything, all the steps that need to be done to bring that well into production, to get it capable of production. So a lot of times, especially now in the shale plays and shale basins, Utica, Marcellus, Eagle Ford, all over the U.S., the shale plays, a lot of times those are horizontal wells. And so the rig is leaving a horizontal well that is cased and cemented. So basically, there's, it's cased and there's cement all around the casing, so there's no way of really producing it. So the completions engineer is then responsible for making that well be able to produce. And so typically, and again in the shale plays, this consists of hydraulic fracturing. So the completions engineer is going to be the one who oversees the design, determining what's best for that well, what's going to help it to produce the best. and a lot of that is going to be economics as well. So you might get a ton more production if you do a lot tighter spacing and a much bigger frac job. You're going to stimulate the rock a whole lot more, but what is economical? Is it going to pay off for you? So that's a lot of the completions engineer in their role. So, and they do, again, it's kind of a mix of field versus office, and that depends on the company. It really just depends on the company on that. And they also have company men who oversee the operations, the actual hydraulic fracturing process, but they are the ones who are doing the design. They're looking at what designs in the past work best, and what designs are we going to carry forth with in the future.
Yeah, great explanation. And so next is production engineers, and production engineers are the ones basically responsible with the well after completions is completed. And so once the well's been fracked and the well is then put into flowback to return some of that sand and plug parts and other debris in the well to ensure the well's clean, then production engineers are the ones in charge. They basically oversee the wells, basically a large field of wells, most oftenly, to ensure that they're producing as requested by mainly the reservoir engineers. They decide how much to open the well and whatnot.
They kind of decide how much they think the well is capable of, and the production engineers are the ones who help execute it. And so basically the production engineer is when you are the ones finally making the company money. Everybody else is spending it. So the production engineer, they have a huge job. They try to make sure that the well is produced as economically as possible and at the highest rates as possible. So ultimately driving profit for the company.
And then once the well starts to decline, and with dry gas wells, you'll hit the critical gas rate, and so the wells start to get loaded. At that point, then they start looking into artificial lift, which is an aspect that production engineers have to be really proficient in. So that'll keep production up and keep generating the company money.
So basically keeping the well producing as long as they can.
Yeah.
And that'll be a whole other video on its own on artificial lift. That's a huge topic, but there's a lot of challenges when it comes to producing a well, and they are responsible for overseeing it. And they'll be in the field a good bit too. It again depends on the company, the size of the company, but they'll go out and take some tests too, and help oversee the pumpers, or the people who are actually taking care of the well physically by their hands every single day. So, and also all these engineers too, the completions and drilling and production, are responsible for selecting products and working with contractors, not only develop the plans, but also what parts and what tools and devices they're going to use in the well, and what's economical and what's the best decision for them.
And so as aspiring petroleum engineers, we wish we knew this information coming into college. It's information that's hard to find online, and all these little details of what to expect of what these engineers are doing current day. And so what we talked with all these engineers in person and been there with them, and so we hope to share our experiences and knowledge with you on what you can expect if you're considering petroleum engineering, or if you're a petroleum engineering student currently.
And now you've got some information to potentially, if you're looking at a company, possibly working for an operator in the future, now you've got some questions to ask them, see how their roles differ. Production engineer at a smaller company is going to have some different roles than one in a larger company. And also within these categories that we talked about today, there's like subcategories. So production, you might have a facilities engineer. They might be a production or a petroleum engineer. They might not be. They might not have had that degree, but they kind of specialize in the facilities, the equipment that is used to produce the well, as opposed to more so the well's features and its properties downhole. So there's a lot of different focuses that you can get, and that differs from company to company. But these are the four main categories. And so thanks for queuing in, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming today. I'd like to welcome.
Concerning, and I was a production engineer for a time, an operations engineer, and a reservoir engineer in the field. And when I was out there, I would have about 10, 15 fields that were that I was associated. Capitalism, then you're going to get paid commensurate to how much you serve your fellow man. You get rewarded for that. That's how the system works. And so you can expect to get paid for what you have is demonstrating leadership. They pay more for leadership than they do for technical excellence. But they pay most of all if you have both of them and can have this ability to be an engineer, to think through the solution and not just have it spontaneous leaders. That's how people that are outside of the capitalism get a good job. and have authority to set apart bishops, and they all came to Salt Lake, and I got a 30-minute briefly and found a leader, because what we were going to do was to make a symphony with your group. Enough money to be comfortable. Describe the reservoir. What's the geology like? What are the layers? What are the strata? What are the permeabilities? What are the porosities? It simulates that virtually depletes the environment frequently, and that's called making a trip. So we take this kind of oil and create the fastest public domain solver. This was Ben Hardy looked at a lot of them and found this was what they're doing. So we've reduced it really three orders of magnitude. That's 1,000 times faster than the.
Okay. So probably you might have seen what are the career possibilities available. These videos you all will get it through Dheya, probably recorded videos. You can again see that. Now the next topic is various possibilities of career options, which are general aspects. The expanding demand for petroleum product would require exploitation of oil reservoirs, which consequently would need trained petroleum engineers. Because of demands daily, there are so many needs are required. Currently, there is a big mismatch in the demand and supply of trained petroleum engineers in India. When Indian oil companies are going overseas and setting up oil producing units, jobs in petroleum sectors are bound to increase. Moreover, India is new in impacting training skills in petroleum engineering to its youths. More than India, it is MNCs from overseas who hire Indian petroleum engineers for their various projects. Career prospects are quite attractive in petroleum sector as petroleum companies have great influence and offer attractive salaries to employees. The demand for petroleum and petroleum products is only expected to increase and increase would lead to the creation of new jobs. In fact, there is a great demand of efficient petroleum engineers, and almost every young graduate in petroleum engineering gets a job offer from petrol and gas companies from Indian and overseas. So, confirmed job employment will be there. Whereas private petroleum companies offer attractive salaries to petroleum engineers, government sectors, oil companies are not far behind in terms of paying attractive salaries and bonuses to employees. Those who have done masters or research in petroleum engineering can work in research activities of various multinational oil companies in various R&D projects. So, what are the industry sectors requiring petroleum engineers? Petroleum engineering can work in upstream and downstream sectors. Government organization and private firms involved in petroleum production services. Lot of energy sectors also do require nowadays petroleum engineers. R&D sectors, analytical and scientific engineer related sectors. Indian oil companies, just for example only, like IOCL, HPCL, BPCL, ONGC, GAIL, Reliance, ISAR, L&T Hydrocarbon, GSFC, Ken Energy, and still other many more. International oil companies also, this is also just for your example, Qatar Gas, Saudi Aramco, big giant company, Abu Dhabi National Oil, Gasco, Halliburton Energy Services, Marks Oil, Petrofac, Bourbon Gulf, WLL, Jadco, and all other British Gas, Halliburton Services, Shell, ExxonMobil. So these are only some few examples. There are many more examples to quote. So chances are there, various opportunities are there. Salaries offered and earning potential. The most important topic of the today. Petroleum engineering has historically been one of the highest paid engineering disciplines, although there is a tendency for mass layoffs when oil prices decline and waves of hiring as prices rise. Even though there are so many payoffs nowadays because of COVID as well as some other projects hold, still the industry is demanding. There is no entire hold on the complete industry. Industry is still running. In 2007 article, Forbes.com reported that petroleum engineering was the 24th best paying job in the United States. Survey showed petroleum engineers in abroad as the highest paid 2010 graduates at an average annual salary of 1,25,000 to $20. For individuals with experience, salaries can range from $170,000 to $260,000. Generally, there is a minimum 15% growth every year for the petroleum engineers in abroad. If you manage to secure a job in India in core profiles such as drilling, production, etc., the salary is appreciable 10 to 15 lakhs annually and will multiply with your work experience and your performance. Operator companies such as ONGC hires directly through GATE, and then there is no turning back once you land up there since it offers endless perks with handsome salary. ONGC offers basic salary of 10 to 12 lakhs accompanied by other benefits. Field engineers typically have slightly higher salaries than those in the office to offset relocation expenses and also as an incentive for laying in remote areas. I will show one more video.
Public domain algorithms. That's my 3-minute talk about what we're doing for research.
Well, let's thank Dr.
Thank you.
Petroleum engineers design and develop methods for extracting oil and gas from deposits below the Earth's surface. Petroleum engineers also find new ways to extract oil and gas from older wells. The demand for petroleum engineers have been growing by double digits annually in recent years. There is no doubt that petroleum engineers have a very high job security due to the fact that the oil is still among the most needed commodities in the world. According to a research conducted by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, petroleum engineers earned an average annual salary of $128,230 in 2016. Despite the fact that oil prices are going up and down, the highest paying countries for petroleum engineers have a high need for this profession. Also, petroleum engineers have a lot of opportunities for career movement in the industry. Here, in this video, we are providing the top 10 highest paying countries for petroleum engineers. Please note that the information for the average salary per country is obtained from the Society of Petroleum Engineers and Hayes Oil and Gas Global Salary Guide.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Uh, The jobs are also available as in India as well as abroad. There is a lot of scope for petroleum engineers at the international level as well as Indian market. Gulf countries generally hire people and pay them good who got expertise in petroleum engineering. As the Gulf countries are rich in crude oil and fuel, they always provide many job opportunities. Nowadays, apart from Gulf countries, there are few other countries where many oil and gas fields are found, and they also started offering similar nature of salaries as Gulf. Example: Europe, US, Nigeria, oil and gas fields. Many other MNCs from the overseas countries are looking for petroleum engineers, and even demand is increasing for the same on regular intervals. Now, PSU sectors opportunities. As I explained earlier, PSU is nothing but public sector unit companies. Indian PSUs are like HPCL, IOCL, BPCL, GAIL, ONGC, etc. need petroleum engineers every year because of increasing demand of oil and gas products and services. Every year, these PSUs will conduct aptitude test, written test, as various other methods like gate score to recruit various engineers related to petroleum engineering. PSUs will publish the advertisement for the same in their website on a regular basis, as well as will use other advertising methods to have a proper recruitment in the time. Apart from normal recruitment program, these PSUs will also conduct technical paper presentations, seminars, technical quiz competitions for which various engineers will be invited. Many PSUs will have tie-ups on the need basis with top-ranked colleges, institutes for the recruitment of petroleum engineers. So definitely, once you become a petroleum engineer, you will have a very nice chance to work in these PSU sector companies. Once you become a petroleum engineer and you already got the your job either India or abroad, so opportunity not ends there. You can always study for the PhD opportunities if you are really interested. Students shall have MTech to enroll for higher studies in petroleum engineering. So MTech requirement is a must. PhD in petroleum engineering is 3 to 5 year doctorate level degree program in the area of engineering with a special focus on petroleum and its related aspects. It is the highest level academic course that can be pursued in the domain. Those who have an interest in research and analysis and those looking at as a career as a subject expert shall opt to pursue PhD. Admission process. Entrance entrance test based merit based on post graduation MPhil percentage. The minimum eligibility criteria for admission is 55% at MPhil or equivalent level in the subject. The course is generally designed to deliver in-depth knowledge and skills to doctorate level students so as to make them well aware of each and every aspect related to domain of petroleum engineering. Subject domain of study in PhD: petroleum reservoir management, petrophysics, oil and gas field development, artificial lift techniques. So these are the main topics which you will be studying under the PhD. Coal bed methane technology is one of the important topic they are going to study in PhD. Now other specialization. The Society of Petroleum Engineers, which is also called as SPE, has Petroleum Engineering Certification Program, whereby it certifies the technical knowledge of petroleum engineers. The certification is granted based on the examination in conjunction with experience of the applicant. Once certified, individuals must renew their certification annually to keep it current. A list of current SEP, that is Society of Petroleum Engineers, certified petroleum engineers, is available online. The requirement to receive the SP certification as listed on the SP website dated on April 2013 is as follows. Undergraduate degree in petroleum engineering or related science, passing score on the SP exam to measure level of engineering fundamentals and ability to solve practical engineering problems, demonstration of at least 4 years of practical engineering experience and training in the industry, professional membership in good standing with Society of Petroleum Engineers. Maintenance of certification requires completing 16 hours of continued professional development and education in addition to paying an annual renewal fee. So now the questions and answers part basically. So I saw some of the questions already. I think Mr. Sandeep Kulkarni has asked one question: how much scope is there for petroleum engineering as countries move towards greener energy? Isn't the scope will get limited to geological purpose of study and evaluation? Basically, you are right, but uh, as I explained earlier, the demand and supply growth is increasing day by day. Probably it may not be restricted in that way. Demand will be always there, so growth will be always there. Your second question was actually which are the all the countries other than India and Middle East Indian petroleum engineers are taken for employment. Only in one of this video, probably you might have got this answer. Is there any course of petroleum under BSc or MSc which can be considered? I think the answer for this is yes. But again, you need to go through the university sections website. There you will get the proper answer. Apart from this, if anybody is having a question answers, please type on the chat box so that I will try to answer those questions to the best of my knowledge. If there is no further questions, Ishwari, hello, hello, Ishwari. Yeah, I got one question from Mr. Manjunath Jayaprakash. What would be the impact of non-conventional energy resources towards the job demand for the petroleum engineering? Yeah, the question is very correct actually. Uh, See, for example, non-conventional energy resources is also important factor which will affect the petroleum engineering. But the non-conventional energy resources here also demand and supply will impact the factor. So as told my told by me in one of the slide, as long as demand and supply growth is there for the petroleum engineering, there is no end. So jobs will be always there. What will be the future where solar and battery operations are in increasing trend? Yeah, this question I think somehow related to this field, but the answer is remain the same. As long as the demand and supply for petroleum engineering is there, uh, future this growth for the petroleum engineering will not stop. Either it is a renewable energy or solar energy or battery operations energy. Answer remains same. Okay. Thanks for your participation. If there, I assume there are no further questions. Thanks for your active participations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful session.
Yeah,
And I
thank you.
thank everyone on the behalf of their career mentors.
So thank you once again for everyone. Probably we will end the
Thank you,
session.
sir. So I'll yes, sir. We'll end the session now.
Yeah.